Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Butchery 101. Oh, let me turn this. I hope you all can hear me. I'm going to do that, I guess, is that. Okay, sorry, this is super, we're going to do this kind of lo-fi. Close. I think I want to ask Siri something. Okay, which I don't. Anyway, thanks to everybody who's joining today. I hope everyone had like a really restful, wonderful weekend. But today we have to talk about something that's pretty unsavory. Please forgive the pun. That's going on in the meat world right now. Which I think if you are well versed or if you are following any number of butchers on Instagram or other social media, you've probably already heard of, which is the fraud scandal going on at Belcampo Meats. It's super disappointing and there's a lot to unpack there. So let's get into it. Also, please let me know if the audio is okay. I don't really know if anybody can hear anything. Okay, anyway. We'll just move forward, and then if not, oh well. Please let me know in the comments, actually. Please let me know if you can hear this or not. I'll just pop a comment in there now. Okay, perfect. Technical difficulties. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So let's cover the basics of what happened regarding the Belcampo fraudulent meat scandal that broke last week in larger publications, but there was a whistleblower who had come forward about 2 weeks ago via his Instagram stories. So let's start with the basics of the situation. For those who are unfamiliar, Belcampo Meats is a supposedly what they say about what they do is that they are like an eco-friendly, sustainable, vertically integrated meat business. That means that they own every aspect of their supply chain and business. So that starts out, they own the farms, they own the processors, they own butcher shops, and they own restaurants. All of these things are supposed to be like for the most part, a self-contained system that it's meant to like ensure transparency the whole way through. And it's a response to like the really obscure version of industrial meat that we have for the most part, for the vast majority of the meat in the United States, is like, it's a meat system that like you can't easily find out what's going on there. And it also involves like a nationwide / global supply chain with like a lot of crossing wires and a lot of like moving stuff around and like a lot of just exchanging hands, lots of middlemen. And so Belcampo was supposed to be the kind of company that you could trust to create, first of all, to like take good care of their animals, farm in a method that is regenerative and sustainable for the planet. And I mean, I guess they didn't really make any claims necessarily for like how well they treat their employees, but like that would be nice too. Anyway, so there's this company called Belcampo that exists. A couple of weeks ago, an employee who, come to find out, is actually like a really skilled and very knowledgeable butcher. For example, he knows how to do, in an interview that he did yesterday, on somebody's Instagram Live, he disclosed that at some point the Belcampo processing plant at the farm was understaffed, and so he was recruited from the shop that he was working at in LA. He would go back. He had worked at the Santa Monica location and in the downtown LA location. He was recruited to go work on the farm and break whole beef. And so he's witnessed firsthand what goes on at their farm. And so anyway, that is just to say that like he is a really skilled butcher. I also want to like not highlight necessarily like who this individual is. I will link you to his Instagram page because I think it's important that more people see the footage that he posted and the commentary. And like he himself apologizes in his Instagram story for being complicit in the dishonesty that Belcampo was participating in. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, this individual who used to be employed by Belcampo, he posted some footage on his Instagram stories of the inside of the Belcampo walk-in, like the inside the refrigeration, where you can see labels on meat that clearly says that it's from other sources. So for example, there's a semi-famous brand of chicken called Mary's Chicken that that like higher end stores do sell, and like I do believe like does like kind of nice things. It isn't like the worst ever. But what was happening is that in the shop they were encouraged or instructed to misrepresent that chicken as meat that had been produced by Belcampo itself. So that is to say, like, you know, if you were to shop there, you were led to believe that these chickens were raised in like a Northern California farm by Belcampo, and you were also paying Belcampo prices. Now the chicken is one thing, but the other meats that he was displaying that were clearly fraudulent were like tenderloin, say for example, like tenderloins that had a USDA stamp on it that clearly says choice, that was like rated choice and was not grass finished, and definitely was not from Belcampo Farms, but was then sold as a product by Belcampo. And I feel like if this had happened in like, I don't know, any number of other businesses, it would be like not the big deal. But the biggest issue here is that, first of all, Belcampo claims to be super transparent and vertically integrated, and so that flies in the face of what they purport to be. And they also raised the prices a lot, like they super overcharged for meat that did not at all meet the standards that they were saying that they adhere to. I'll link you if you're watching the recording of this and not watching it live. There should be a link down below to a couple articles that do detail this scenario. So hopefully you can get to those and like read up on it. And then since then, the Belcampo as a company and the CEO have both issued individual official statements that I guess are meant to be apologies or like acknowledgments of what's happening, but neither of those statements take true accountability for what happened. And like both of them lean on like, oh, this is an individual incident, an isolated incident. They claim that every individual butcher shop has like a certain amount of autonomy to order outside of Belcampo's farms, which like, okay, that does make sense because like obviously like, you know, 2020 was not normal for anybody, and like supply chains all over the place were like extremely disrupted. The meat industry especially was super disrupted. And he did mention in that interview yesterday that one of their farms had a COVID scare, and I think that's why they were understaffed, and that he had to go up and help break whole beef. So they claim that each individual store has like a little bit of autonomy, so they're like there's a little flexibility, but two things are wrong with that statement to me. One, how how much how much autonomy each store should have is like, that should be documented. And knowing, based on my experience in like this size of company, not just in meat, but also like in food and like other places in general, like there's tons of paper trails. You can find out that stuff. You can track where stuff is from, and like you can find the invoices, and you can track the money. It's like really easy to find out, and it's hard for me to believe that Belcampo and its founder did not know of these things happening. And then secondly, they were mislabeling these stuff. So I understand if a shop has to like purchase meat and sell meat that is supplemental to like their main supply chain. Like maybe they have to like buy from a different supplier or a different, just whatever. Like I understand that this stuff has to happen, but you shouldn't be labeling that stuff and representing it as your own if it isn't. So just like, please do be transparent with like what it is that you're doing. I think especially this year, if any company was like facing troubles with their supply chain, like I think if you were to have disclosed that to your customers, especially in the year of 2020 and 2021, I think your customers would be extremely understanding of those situations. Like I don't know what kind of monster you have to be to like not be okay with like your favorite store not having like the exact cut that you wanted. Generally, the story has been mostly covered by social media because, you know, he issued the whistleblower issued his own statements like via his Instagram, and though that footage was picked up by others on Instagram. And that's slightly problematic, I'm not going to lie. I feel like there should be some sort of like editorial like investigation, or like there should be an investigation, and the reporting should be subject to editorial oversight, which there's been not much of that, to be honest. And it sucks because at this point, because the story is so widespread, it would be really, I think it would be really hard for a true investigative journalist to be able to truly uncover what has been going on without running into a ton of backlash or pushback from the company itself. So there's that. For those who don't know, Belcampo is mostly based in California. But something I didn't realize, sorry, I keep like messing with my hair. That's pretty distracting. But something I didn't realize about Belcampo until I started hearing about this story was that they also source meat from Uruguay. Like, why? And I understand that there are like economic reasons, obviously, because like tons of meat is like produced all over the world in places where land is cheaper than it is in the United States, and where, say, like they don't have workers' rights written out in law in certain places. So like you can definitely produce meats and animals and product in much more like economical ways elsewhere, and you can still claim to be like grass finished or whatever. But if you're shipping it in from another continent, like that doesn't count as like being like homegrown and sustainable. So to be honest, when I found out about that, like I was already like, hard pass. Like that is just, it's so shady to do that. And I don't know why anybody who did know about the out of country farms that they're sourcing from, I don't know why you would believe that that counts as a sustainable practice. Like, just so you know, it, for the record, that is not something that you should encourage, and that is not something that is going to be contributing to sustainability. It's not something like your carbon footprint offsets any effort that you have made for like regenerative agriculture if you have to fly that stuff across the world to get to its end consumer. also, if you are exploiting the lesser protected workers of another country, it's especially shady. Oh, there's so much wrong with that. So anyway, let's keep going. I have this list of facts that I want to like get out before I start giving you my hot takes, but like my hot takes just keep on like coming out because it's just so bad. Yeah, so the whistleblower came out about 2 weeks ago. And okay, so in the interview yesterday, Evan, that is the name of the butcher, who had come forward, he did disclose that he had been fired from Belcampo, but that was over a customer service dispute, supposedly. Like that was the event that catalyzed his firing, which like, excuse me. Knowing what I know about customer service standards and how in meat departments, especially high-end meat departments, you are expected to be extremely subservient. And I totally can see where he's coming from. If he had a customer who was like being a jerk and he was like couldn't bite his tongue in that moment, and that ultimately got him fired. So there is that. I do definitely believe him. I think there's a lot to be answered for on the part of Belcampo and its owner, or its CEO, Anya Fernald. I think I mentioned this earlier, but both of them the company and Anya both issued very toothless apology statements. Excuse me for 1 second. I'm going to grab a glass of water because I'm just dying. 1 sec. Talk amongst yourselves. Don't forget to hydrate, y'all. It's super important. I'm not going to wear these. Those do nothing. Okay, so I do believe him. And why is that? Like, there's like, these two operating sides, and like, it's almost a he said, she said moment right now. But because I have in the past come forward with my own experiences witnessing misinformation and abuse and dishonesty throughout my meat career. And I think most of us have seen our corporate employers, like if you have ever worked for a large company or any company really, and see the behaviors and the philosophies of the owners of that company, behave in ways that you disagree with, but for whatever personal reasons, like for your career or yourself or the health insurance, still stay working at the job. I think you understand too why people don't come forward with this information very often. And so people who come forward, there's already, anyway, people with that struggle, there's already an internal struggle where like moment to moment, day to day, you have to reconcile this like cognitive dissonance between the stuff that you see behind the scenes and what you experience in reality at your job and what you are told to express to customers or colleagues or anybody really. For example, if you happen to work for like a large e-commerce company and you are, you're paid well, so it like supports you and your family and you get excellent benefits out of it. So again, like it is something that is good for you personally, but maybe you disagree with the carbon footprint and waste of e-commerce. I think you might understand the dilemma that whistleblowers do face. Service professionals like hospitality workers and butchers and meat cutters have the added weight of the implication that our jobs are to be subservient and inferior to the customers and guests in our establishments. I mean, it's not like people look at their butchers and their servers and baristas the same way that they look at their doctors or lawyers. So anybody who comes forward with their story, whether it's based in like toxic workplace abuse, fraudulent sourcing, or anything else, has already fought through those barriers and those layers of self-doubt and have already mustered up like a lot of courage to come forward at all. Not to mention the potential backlash that they face if they do open up. Think of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford or Anita Hill, and how those women had come forward in an attempt to save all of us from abusers getting lifetime positions in the most powerful court in the United States, only to see their abusers get those appointments and then they themselves, these women, also received countless death threats and endless gaslighting. I'm also super disappointed in Belcampo in general. I'm so sad, and I haven't seen anybody really in the meat world. I haven't seen any fellow butchers like say this just yet, but like I'm bummed. I'm especially bummed because I believed them. I believed in them. I believed their story. I believed that they were doing the right thing. They seemed like the promise of a future of well-sourced meat, sustainability, and a woman's success as a CEO in an extremely sexist economy, and not to mention like an extremely sexist industry. So yeah, so I totally bought into it. I was a big fan. The good meat industry, though, is built on integrity and trust and transparency, which they claimed to have. But Belcampo has squandered both of those things, all three of those things, actually. But the truth is, like, a lot of businesses have. And the thing that like really leads me to the thing that really galvanized my opinion on this situation, in that like I believe the whistleblower, and like I really do hope that Belcampo changes their ways and like starts to own up, was their apology. Like you can totally tell when people are fake apologizing. It's super toothless. They blame the employees. They say it's an isolated incident. I would feel a lot better about the whole situation if they were like, hey, so we messed up. Yes, we were allowing this. Yes, we were working with austerity measures to cut expenses for our stores, like maybe our farms couldn't like keep up with demand. There are a lot of things that they could just come out and own, and I would be so much more understanding of their plight, of their scenario, of like the challenges that they're facing, because obviously they're not doing something that is easy. Nobody is really. But they couldn't even own it. And they blamed the employees. Like they made it seem like it was like one or two managers that were defrauding the company, like that they were getting taken advantage of by their employees, as opposed to what is much more likely the case, that they made shady decisions at a corporate level based on profit margins, and were willing to be dishonest about their sourcing. So I do look forward to the reckoning, hopefully, that will come later on. I really hope that there's some sort of like powerful third party can come in and verify the claims made here and there within that company. And I hope that there can be some true transparency in that system. Because to me, our meat system and agriculture, these are avenues through which we can combat climate change, and like have ethical, conscientious meat. But there's no governing body that like truly guarantees these things. And so I don't know. I do look forward to the day that honesty can be real in commerce. because truthfully, I've seen misrepresentation in many of the companies that I've worked for in my meat career. I used to work for a tech company that they did mostly food content, like online education, from which I learned a lot. But for a while there, they were trying to sell local meat shares, and they misrepresented their meat on their website. They claimed to be getting all local stuff and all like grass finished stuff, but I was privy to the inner workings of where they were ordering from, and they were definitely just sourcing regular old corn finished beef for these programs. It was really disappointing. I have a slightly longer story about a large grocery chain for which I used to work in the meat department. So here goes. Anyway, this is all stuff that to add evidence to the fact that there are lots of meat companies out there that you unfortunately cannot trust. So I live around Seattle. Most of my career has been based in or around Seattle. And so I'll tell you, I don't want to tell you the actual name of this company because I'm not trying to put anybody on blast or get like buried by anybody. But I will tell you that this particular company is locally owned. But it's owned by, it is a company that is ethically and morally bankrupt, that mostly deals in e-commerce. And that company just happens to own a well-known high-end grocery chain that touts health and environmental friendliness as like pillars of their business. Maybe you can guess who it is at this point. Anyway, a few years back when I was working in their meat department as a meat cutter, I witnessed a number of egregious things, but just a little context for what meat departments are supposed to do. So large grocery meat departments are obligated to track their meats. Like there needs to be a paper trail that shows you where the meat came from, like what processing plant, when it was slaughtered, when it was broken down, when it was shipped. And so there are distinct serial codes on every single box of meat that come into that store. So that's like for every 50 pounds of meat, there is a distinct code that says where that meat came from, when it was slaughtered, etc. When it was shipped to the store, and then also like when the store opened that box. Literally, we were supposed to track anytime we opened a new box. And it's because they need to be able to trace pathogens, potential pathogens back to the source. So we were also made to track like say we would grind the beef. We grind beef for the ground beef that goes into the case, and then you're like, oh, I need a pound of ground beef, and then like we scoop a little bit of it from it. Every time you did a batch of ground beef, you were supposed to record which cases, from which cases the trim had come. So ostensibly, here's how it should have worked in its perfect iteration. If a customer purchased some ground beef and got sick from it, we should be able to track the origin of that meat. We should be able to know where it was slaughtered, when it was broken down, when it was shipped to the store, when we opened it into the store, when we cut it on the block, and when we ground it. All of these things are meant to be tracked, and that most of that responsibility is stewarded by each individual meat department and each meat cutter. What I witnessed at this particular job was that the most senior, hang on, sorry, I'm reading my notes. Okay. What I witnessed at this job, in addition to many violations of just of local and state health codes, which I can totally talk about at another time, and tons of like really weird, toxic, abusive behaviors as well. But what I witnessed that's relevant to this context was that their most senior meat cutter would violate these rules every single shift. Every single day, he was not filling out the forms properly, and would do it in a way that was convenient for him and that would avoid any like oversight or negative feedback from the higher ups, like our management. Because I do know that the department manager and the assistant department manager both knew full well what this guy was doing. But he did this in a way that pretty much nulled the entire process. Like he would write down numbers that, yes, I think were case numbers from the boxes, but they weren't done in a way that was timely or accurate, so that we could be able to trace the meat back to its source. And management knew about it all along. This was one of those things that did eventually make me quit that job. And I do remember at some points, when upper management of this particular store, which by the way, this store is the flagship store that was across the street from e-commerce conglomerate headquarters in Seattle. The managers of that store called each meat department worker into an office area to like have us testify or give a statement as to like what was going on in terms of like the shady bookkeeping that was going on. And I laid it out every single one of those details as much as I could, because these are things that will make customers sick, and the guilty parties would never be accountable, because there's just so many loopholes and so many ways that individuals can be dishonest. Now, this was a case of an individual being extremely dishonest, and I do believe that that is possible. The case, unfortunately, he was enabled by his direct management, and then also by store management. And even if our CEO never knew about it, he was not taking accountability for any of it. What was going on at Belcampo sounds like something that was, that there were decisions made at a corporate level based on profit, or rather just financial margins, which is like understandable from a business standpoint. But that those financial factors led them to be dishonest about their sourcing. So anyway, I just want to let you know that there are good meat sources out there, but I personally am very suspicious of, now especially, I am very suspicious of larger companies that claim to be extremely sustainable. Just because like at a certain scale, your decisions are going to be a little bit different. So yeah, I think that's it. That's all that I want to say about Belcampo in general. And I hope you all had a really nice week. If you happen to shop at one of those stores, at like a large grocery store, and like you want to believe that you're purchasing good meat, if you can, I would switch to purchasing from a local farm, and truly getting to know your farmer as much as you can. If you can't afford like time or money to support your local farm and like get to know personally your farmer, that's okay too. I just think people should know about these things, and you can shop however your body needs and like your budget can allow. But I do think that this kind of information is really important for any consumer to know with whatever that they're buying. Yeah, so that's it for Belcampo. I do want to tell you all a little bit about what's going on with the channel with Butchery 101. So this week we'll be doing, I have another video coming out on Friday that I'm really stoked on. So I hope you all tune in then. It won't be a live, so you can kind of watch it or whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. If you're new to the channel, please hit like and subscribe. And we talk every week on Tuesdays about what's going on in current events in the meat world. And every Friday there is a new upload of like an instructional or informational video. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time and attention, and I really hope you all have a better meat eating and buying experience out there. Thank you so much. Bye.